Hey guys, Ark here, bringing to you another episode of my Learning Night Elf series. So this episode we're going to be covering the Night Elf versus Human matchup, and I think I'm going to start doing a little bit differently than what I had before. So this is going to be more of an in-depth kind of strategy slash philosophy, I guess, idea video. Basically, I'm going to be covering the matchups and just giving my thoughts through either my games or pro games. I've done this before, but I was kind of including everything in the chapter 2, or I guess game analysis channels, or not channels, video feeds or whatever. But I'm going to make 4 new ones, basically Night Elf versus Night Elf, Night Elf versus Human, versus Undead, and versus Orc, and just kind of give my thoughts and keep them in their own playlists, and just kind of go from there. So this will be Night Elf versus Human. This is a game I played either yesterday or maybe a few days ago. I can't quite remember. But it is on Northern Isles, which is typically a weak map for myself. Keeper was a very good, I guess, change of pace on this map. But I've started not using it as much on this map just because I feel like it hasn't been as successful for me. So I've been incorporating a little bit more Warden, a little bit more Demon Hunter back into my play. And so this is going to be a Warden game, and what makes this a little bit non-standard is that there was no fast expo, and I don't know if he changed his mind once he saw the Warden, or if his original plan was to not fast expo to begin with. I want to lean towards he was going to play one base regardless of my hero, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And what I think makes this interesting is there's a lot of times where I'll watch a Night Elf player where they're not really scouting appropriately. Personally, I feel like they're not scouting appropriately. Maybe others would disagree with me, but just from my own personal opinions on the matchup, I think the scouting aspects of the matchup is very important, and we'll kind of, I'll unpause now, we'll kind of get towards that as we get to it. I'm just going to speed up a little bit, so I'm just going to be doing a normal Ancient of War creeping, and with Warden, you'll often see a Ancient of Wonders get placed here so that you can go from the orange camp to the green camp to this green camp and have a very I guess quick way to get level 3 just with only one AOW. So you save on the resources not having a second AOW, and really the only other place that you could realistically place a second AOW that makes sense would probably be at the gold mine, but it doesn't really give you a huge benefit, and it's pretty risky because oftentimes the human will catch you there no matter what opening they're doing. The Ancient of Wonders is kind of early enough that you can creep this, and it's relatively safe versus any opening, no matter what your opponent does. So you're gonna see a normal AOW creeping on the Ogre Magi here, but the key I want to say, or I want to mention, is that versus Human, oftentimes you won't send the Scout Wisp until the first Wisp out of your tree when your Ancient of War finishes. This basically is the fastest way for you to build your second Moonwell. The key for why this is important is because oftentimes with any other earlier of a scout, if you see your opponent's base, you're not going to see anything that is going to really tell you anything. You're not going to get an idea of whether it's a fast expo. You're not going to get... really the only thing that you would get an idea of is if you see some type of like tavern build or something and they're going to immediately tower rush you. The reason why it's not that important that you see that is that you should be able to defend that even if you find out about it like right here. So it doesn't really benefit you, or even honestly right here. With good micro and everything, your opening is perfectly safe to defend against an early rush like that. So it's important to keep that in mind, that good micro is oftentimes a requirement for some of these scouting tips and everything. But another reason why it's not ideal to scout so early is that the first footy that comes out of his base knows exactly where your wisp is at and doesn't have to really travel anywhere to start targeting it. By sending the wisp in a location that's not necessarily at his base and he doesn't see it with his footy, it's going to be very risky for him to just all of a sudden like send his footy anywhere. So for instance, this is a very common scout location, but look how far away it is from the base. Like you're not going to send the first footy here. because unless you're creeping this camp anyways, in which case once you see that, you already have the information you needed from the scout wisp, so it's okay to send it back to his base. So anyways, yeah, I guess I'm a little bit on a tangent, but so you want the really early second moonwell, and you want your scouting wisp to be in a location that tells you everything you need to know. On Northern Isles, the reason why this is that location is because if your opponent is going to immediately fast expo, he's going to be creeping this camp right away, and your wisp will see it, and you can send your wisp, or you can send your hero from here to there before the camp's finished, just to harass. What it will also tell you is if he's not creeping this, he is most likely creeping this camp. What that tells you is that it's probably going to be a one base play, but it's not for sure. It could still be like a later expo, but generally I'm not as concerned, because what that means is that I should be able to be very close to level 3 by the time I can harass, and during this harass it's very likely that I'll get level 3, or I'll still deal a decent amount of damage, and so that's kind of the idea, is that I'm not as concerned with this camp right away. So now we'll just let the game unfold. I'm going to speed up a little bit. You see the Ancient of Wonders. So essentially that Ancient of Wonders gets built as soon as you have 30 wood after the second moonwell. So you see me creeping this, and I'm paying attention to this wisp. I see it's not being done. I see this footy as well, and so it's a little. I'm a little unusual. I guess it's a little unusual to me, because I would assume he would use that second footy here, but regardless, I move this wisp further in to make sure he's not coming with militia now, or just to get an idea. This is a good timing for scouting his main to see if he's teching or not. So he is teching. I see those militia, or those peasants come back, so I know he just finished the creep camp, and he is most likely doing something here. And my guess, after seeing him tech, is that he's probably not going to stay on his map over here. After creeping this, he's probably going to come over to me. But what that means is I can just deal with this footy, I can creep this camp, and I can deal with what I see up to that point. Now, at this point though, I do see him right here, and so I'm like, okay, I know I don't have to be worried creeping this camp. I'm going to kill this footy and then start creeping that. So there's a lot of decisions being made just from that one scout wisp. And so it's very important to always keep that in mind, that when you're watching a game like this, you have to understand that what I've done so far is ruled out the fast expo. I see the tech. I know he's crept this camp. I can assume he's probably crept this camp, because that's very common to do right after you creep the orange. And then I send it back this way. My thought is that he's probably not going to creep any of these three camps. My guess is that he would come to me after this camp, but I wanted to push out the footy anyways, and once I saw him here, I knew that there was really nothing that I had to worry about while creeping this. Not that I wouldn't have crept it if I didn't see him, but it would have just been a little bit more of a concern for me if I hadn't seen him there. So now I know I'm going to be able to creep this camp pretty safely, and we're just going to speed very past it. And so basically I'm just trying to explain my thought processes for how this game is going, and what I'm scouting to creep and to make the creep decisions I'm making, and whether I need to be concerned or not. And so after this creep camp, it's very important that you keep in mind what are your avenues into your base. So I know he's creeping this camp, and it's possible he's going to creep this camp, but it's just so far away from my base. And in my opinion, if he lets me freely creep 3 while he creeps 3, it's more beneficial for me. So I'm not all that concerned of him going here, because I don't think it's very likely. I'm expecting him to do some type of aggression on my base, because that's very common for a one base human, is that they're going to do some type of pre-T2 harassment on your base. And so watch how I move my units out of here. So I have this path I thought I had covered. We'll keep that in mind as we get through here, but there is a little bit of a sliver of a darkness here. I thought I could see through that, but I guess I was wrong. Then I have this pathway here, and I have this pathway here. So obviously my Warden is cutting off this pathway, and as I finish this creep camp, we'll see where my archers are. So you see I'm sending them through here. Essentially, I did run into the footies here, but I haven't seen this hero. The goal is to identify where your opponent is at through these movements. So even if I were to do this green camp next, by running through all these locations, I have ruled out him coming to my base in a time where I wouldn't be able to creep this, I guess. So at this point I see these and I'm like, okay, I'm perfectly fine. But he did sneak his AM through here. So he did end up getting in my base, but a solo AM with 4 archers and my Warden on the way is much less of a concern because his footies are not going to be really doing anything in my base, so I'm not concerned about that. So I just have to deal a little bit with this harassment. I do get him to staff out, and then I can just kill this water elemental. Now, here's a little bit of a mistake on my part. I don't know exactly where he's at. I assumed he staffed out because he wasn't going to continue harassment, which was a mistake of mine. But I did want to run to the shop anyways to get boost of speed. And my archers kind of were a little slow anyway, so it wasn't a terrible trade for me. I did have to cancel the Moonwell, but I was able to at least get back in time and defend. So he was not able to accomplish anything with his harassment, and that's really what you want to prevent against a one-base human, is to really not have to struggle with defending the harassment at all. And I ended up getting a level advantage, and pay attention to my Warden. Still has 2 skill points, so even though I'm level 3, I'm really hesitant to skill my next level or my next ability until I see what his second hero is. For instance, if he's going to go Paladin this game, so once we see the Paladin, I'm going to go level 2 Fan of Knives because it's dealing the AoE damage. The Paladin can only heal 1 unit at a time. If he went for, let's say, an Alchemist, it might be better to go level 2 Shadow Strike so I could focus down the Alchemist or individual units while he's doing his AoE heal. So that's just an example of why I'm saving my skill points. So from here, it's basically just, I defended the harassment, I have a level advantage, I'm going to be able to get my lures down, and then you play it very similarly to Demon Hunter 1 base, where you just try and tech up to bears as quickly as you can. And from here, I am going to do a little bit of harassment. This didn't trade as well as I would have hoped. But at this point, it's just a game of kind of cat and mouse, trying to reduce you right here. That was a huge mistake on my part. But basically just trying to stall him out as long as I can until I get bears. Eventually I'll get the range upgrade on the archers, and really just kind of delay. So really the keys of this matchup is, in my opinion, is the pre-T2 time, especially versus one base human. And you just have to always know the directions that your opponent can come from, and basically always intercept him, be between your base and him at all times as best you can, because you never want to let him into your base without you already being there or knowing about it and doing equivalent damage to his base. So with that said, I'm going to call this episode complete. If you have any specific questions, feel free to write them down below, but thank you guys for tuning in. Take care.